Welcome back into another episode of the Believe in Georgia Tech podcast. We're your co-hosts. That's RJ Schafer. I'm Jackson Caudell coming to you. I'm in my car after the game. Very, very capital V, very disappointing effort from Georgia Tech tonight. Started the game off in about as bad as you possibly could. To their credit, to a degree, I'm not going to give them too much credit, but they did fight back, and it was a one-score game with under 5 minutes left. They weren't able to get it done, and they're not technically dead yet. Like, there are still some very far out there scenarios where they can get to the ACC championship game, but they're more than likely dead as far as the ACC championship goes, and as far as the college football playoff goes, no matter what happens next Friday at Mercedes-Benz. But we're going to get into all that. But RJ, I'm scared to ask how you're doing.
I'm gonna keep it optimistic. We're a glass half full podcast. I'm doing as good as I can. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah, we try to be. It's a little bit hard tonight, but yeah, we're going to try to bring a little nuance and talk about some things. By all means, y'all, if y'all need to take your anger out on anybody, I guess just hit the comment section and let us have it. But look, I know it sucks when your team loses, but for those of y'all that still come around and listen to the show, much appreciated. I think the happiest thing for me tonight was there were actually more than a few people that did recognize me, and we talked about the show. I high fived some people, talked about the show. So thank you guys for that. That's what we do it for. So if you're watching this, haven't subscribed, would love it if you would. I know tonight's probably the wrong night to ask for that, but if you would, that'd be great. Like the video, share, tell your friends, tell your enemies, follow us wherever you get your podcast. That'd be great. I guess let's just dive right in, and do things how we usually do. This game could not have started worse. The only game that even come remotely close off the top of my head was the Colorado game when you turned it over 3 times in the first 3 drives, but you only gave up 1 touchdown after that. So, look, this was a very hype crowd. It was that very much lived up to the standard. Like, before the game, it was, senior night. Obviously, there's a lot of emotion. Everybody was amped up. When I saw Georgia Tech get the ball, I was like, all right, chance to go down there, get up early, and then, try to get as many stops as you can on defense, which was obviously the main concern, I think, for everybody coming into tonight. Offense went 3 and out, and it looked very clunky, but you're like, all right, that's 1 drive. They end up punting it away. Defense actually comes through on the first drive of the game. Braden Manley got a big sack. They forced a punt. Georgia Tech gets the ball back, and they go 3 and out. Pitt gets it, and it was just like everything we've been watching for the past month or so. I mean, it's 3 plays, 69-yard drive, only took 57 seconds off the clock. Pitt broke a big 33-yard run, had a 31-yard passing touchdown, and it was 7-0. Very next drive, Georgia Tech gets it, have a turnover on downs. They were driving a little bit, like it wasn't a great drive, but they got around midfield. And again, I feel like I have to say this every few weeks, and I said it last week. I think Buster Faulkner is one of the 5 best offensive coordinators in college football. Sometimes on 4th down and in short yardage, he has play calls that I just fundamentally disagree with, and I could even go further than that, but that's where I'm going to leave that. And I hated that 4th down call. I don't know what you thought about it when they were down 7-0. I absolutely hated it.
I think a lot of the 4th down play. I mean, there were some others in this game too. I think some of the plays are just weird. I mean, in Haynes King, credit where credit is due. He was under pressure for most
Yeah,
of the entire game, and I mean that probably ruins a lot of the plays. But again, I didn't agree with the call at all.
no. And that was the thing that was very apparent early on. Like, I mean, Pitt's pass rush was just getting to Haynes King. And
Yeah,
I talked about it on the Thursday pod with Steven. Like, Pitt's edges and linebackers are very athletic. Pitt is not the best defense in the ACC, but like they have very good athletes across the board, and that's what we talked about made it such a tough matchup. Like, they had the guys to prevent Haynes King from getting to the edge a lot and to prevent him from taking off. And for 98% of the game, they did. There was a couple of runs near the end of the game, but like, and you saw that very early on. It was apparent that like it was going to be hard for King to get the edges. They were getting pushed everywhere. So it's 7-0, and then Pitt goes 6 plays, 55 yards, 2:31 off the clock, 19-yard touchdown pass, and all of a sudden it's 14-0 in the first quarter, and you're like, uh-oh. I mean, it was just a terrible start to the game. What does the offense do? It Haynes King forces the issue, and two of his probably worst throws of the entire season. I would say his two worst throws of the entire season, unfortunately, came tonight. And the first one was on the fourth drive. He's under pressure, threw a really poor decision, made a really poor decision. Pitt ended up getting a short field and went 4 plays, 28 yards, got a touchdown, and it was 21-0. And everything, like I said a few minutes ago, there was so much energy, there was so much life. Like, this was the biggest home game, this biggest game period for this program in quite some time. And then you're down 21-0 at the end of the first quarter. And I am not shocked Pitt won the game. As I said on Thursday, I had basically all since the Boston College game, I was thinking about picking Pitt to win it, but I went with my heart instead of my head the other day. I just did not expect to see that in the first quarter.
Yeah, and I mean they talked about it on the broadcast. For people that were at the game and missed it, Haynes King sat down with Eric Rivers after that drive, and he was quoted on the broadcast. Haynes King was saying, we're not like this. Like, this is not us. And it just felt so. It didn't feel like Haynes King at all. It didn't feel like the Haynes King that we've been seeing for the first half of the season, the first 8 games, first however many games you want to pull from. Uh, Something just felt different. There was so much pressure on Haynes King in this game, and it felt like, I mean, you just couldn't play up to the moment, especially in that first bit of the game.
Yeah, and I don't want to say it for certain. To me, it really did look like the moment was too big for them.
Yeah.
Just to put it plainly. Look, I'm not. That's just how it looked to me. So we'll get into the second quarter. Look, Georgia Tech ends up going 3-and-out on the drive after the interception. Pitt gets it, 7 plays, 54-yard drive, 3:13 off the clock. Mason Heinchel touchdown run, and it's 28-0. I thought it was over at that point. Just to be completely honest with you guys, I was starting to worry how bad it was going to get. Full disclosure, I just didn't know, because when it's 28-0 after all that buildup and how much this game meant and everything, and just to be down so quickly and just everything was avalanching, I started to wonder how bad it really might get. Georgia Tech finally has a good drive. Go 15 plays, 75-yard drive. Took nearly 7 minutes off the clock. Haynes King touchdown run. And look, there were not a lot of there were hardly any explosive plays tonight, but like they got what they needed to. They went down. It's 28-7, and Pitt got the ball to start the second half. So you knew, look, you got to keep them off the scoreboard for the rest of the half. They forced a punt, got only their second stop of the entire first half. They have a great get good field position. I believe that's where, if I'm remembering correctly, I forgot to write it down in my notes here, but I think that's where there was a penalty, I think, on the punt, and Pitt had some weird penalties tonight as far as personal fouls and stuff go. They only had to go 30 yards. It was 4 plays, 30 yards, only a minute off the clock. Isaiah Canyon, first of 2 touchdowns. And then, like, they were back in the game. There was still a lot to be done, but it was 28-14, and you're like, okay, that's manageable. Just keep Pitt. I was wondering what Pitt would do. I think there was around, I want to say there was like just a little bit more than a minute left in the first half, and I was wondering if Pitt was just going to run the clock out, to be honest, just because they got the ball. Instead of, because Georgia Tech had 2 timeouts, and I just didn't know if they wanted to risk a turnover or Georgia Tech getting a quick stop or something. And they got down into Georgia Tech territory. looked like they were going to score a touchdown for a little bit, but had to settle for a field goal. They miss it. Georgia Tech's called for offsides. They line up to kick it again. He misses it again. And for those that didn't know, like Pitt was on their backup kicker. They had all kinds of special teams issues in this game. Their starting kicker, who's very, very good, he was out for this game. So it's 28-14 at the end of the first half. It felt fortunate to just be 28-14, but I think after just the first quarter and everything, like I think most people said, all right, that we'll take it. As far as, just running through some stats real quick. I mean, Pitt had 281 yards to Georgia Tech's 111. Mason Heinchel was 14 and 19, 189 yards. They had 92 yards rushing, 4.8 yards per carry, and was averaging 7.4 yards per play. I mean, it was the worst half Haynes King's played all year. 12 of 20, 72 yards passing. No running game whatsoever. 39 yards, 2.4 yards per carry, and only 3.1 yards per play. Georgia Tech came into this game as the leaders in the country in yards per play, and that just didn't. It just wasn't there. Any other first half thoughts? I mean, it was pretty dismal outside of those last couple drives for Georgia Tech.
And I mean, it was on both sides of the ball too, because Georgia Tech went about 4 series, had 2 total first downs. The defense really could not tackle at all in the first half. Again, they buckled down a little bit more in the second half, but just probably the most abysmal play from this 2025 Georgia Tech team that we've seen at all this season.
Yep. So third quarter begins. Georgia Tech does force a punt. They didn't get a 3-and-out, but they forced a punt, and like it was exactly what you needed. And they had all the momentum on their side at this point. Like the crowd was re-engaged. You're like, all right, we go down, get a score here. It's one score. Plenty of time left in this game. And arguably maybe the biggest play of the night. Georgia Tech drives it down there. 3rd and goal. I mean, Pitt brought the house after Haynes King. He made another bad decision. He had to get rid of it quickly, and it just didn't work. Pitt takes it all the way back. That's one of the biggest momentum swings I've seen since I've been covering this program. This is my 4th season, and like that's when I tell you, like you could hear a pin drop, like you could, like everybody was stunned. It's 35-14. Most people thought, all right, now the game's over. But again, to Tech's credit a little bit, they did keep playing. They force a 3-and-out. Or no. They get the ball back. They have a turnover on downs around midfield or so. Like you were at the point where you had to go for it. Didn't get it. They did force a 3-and-out on the next drive. They get the ball back. They were moving it fairly well, but they had 3 false starts on one drive. On that one drive, ended up having to punt it away. Still 35-14. Then the defense, they force another punt. I mean, like the defense in the third quarter was fantastic. Like it really was. Like you didn't allow a touchdown. And then right before going into the fourth quarter, Tech goes 7 plays, 63 yards, took 3 minutes off the clock. You had Malik Rutherford had a 20-yard catch. Jamal Haynes punched it in the end zone, was ruled down at first, but then they looked at it, ended up being ruled a touchdown, and it's 35-21 going into the fourth quarter. But I mean, the play of the quarter in the game, I mean, it was the pick six.
Yeah, and it's just such a huge swing of momentum. I mean, you go from a position where it's 28-14. You've been driving really good. That whole drive. That's probably, besides the interception, that was probably one of Georgia Tech's best drives of the day. I mean, drove 75 yards. Haynes King was looking really good. The run game was actually looking good. And you could have made it a 1-score ball game, and you end that drive, it's 35-14, and you lose all of the crowd factor that you had up until that point.
Yeah, I mean, like, and it was it would have been your 3rd straight touchdown drive. I mean, like
Yeah.
for all the struggles, excuse me, they had early. Like, I mean, they figured some stuff out and started to play a little bit and get rhythm, and like just talking about the defense, like to his credit, like Blake Gideon did adjust a little bit. And I mean, they were sending the house at Mason Heinchel, and they were getting plenty of pressure. Like Pitt's offensive line was terrible tonight. Like they opened up some holes in the run game. I think some of that was just bad tackling, to be honest. But like, um, man, they were bringing the pressure, and like they were really getting after Pitt, and that was something. That was just something we haven't seen this year. I mean, Georgia Tech ended up with 6 sacks in the game, so it's 35-21. Pitt. That I'll say this: Pat Narduzzi better be lucky that they won this game. So it's 35-21. Georgia Tech gets a stop. It's fourth and long on Pitt's side of the field, and Pitt tried a fake punt, and it didn't work at all. Like it wasn't even close. Um, that was bizarre. I thought if Georgia Tech comes and wins this game in overtime, Pat Narduzzi is going to get thrown under the bus and is going to get run over by the bus, and then he's going to get thrown under it again until he can't keep getting run over. Like that was one of the craziest calls I've ever seen. But so Tech goes, like, they marched down 38 yards in just 6 plays. Like that's how close they were. Like it wasn't like Pitt was in Georgia Tech territory or something and try to fake punt on a 4th and 2. Like it was 4th and long on their side of the field. It just bizarre. Isaiah Canyon catches another touchdown. I think it was on 3rd down, if I'm not mistaken. 35-28 with 4:51 to go. And with the way the defense had been playing, you're like, can they get one more stop? Like, can you get one more stop, give us the ball, and either we force overtime or score and try to win the game? And the defense that we've just seen the past few weeks ended up showing up at the worst possible time. I mean, Georgia Tech kicks it away, and then Pitt goes 4 plays, 75 yards in 2 minutes, 56-yard touchdown run to make it 42-28. Tech did get the ball. They drove a little bit. Like you still had like a very phantom shot at it because they did have all 3 timeouts, and it was like, all right, if you can score without using any of your timeouts, you'll also have the onside kick. Like maybe you can do something, but there ended up being a pass interference on Isaiah Canyon that really hurt Georgia Tech as far as field position goes. Haynes King throws it on 4th down. He was under pressure again and he got it off to Jamal Haynes. It was short of the line to gain. Jamal Haynes fought to get to the 1st down. Didn't work. Pitt ended up kneeling it, but I mean, it went from a 28-0 ball game, 28-14. Looks like it's about to be 28-21 in a brand new game. A pick six happens. Georgia Tech gets back in the game and is down one. Like they were down 1 score with 4:50 left. Like I know it felt like Georgia Tech was getting absolutely throttled all game, but like and at that point they were actually outgaining Pitt. Like we were just saying, and at the end of the first half, like, and Pitt had 281 total yards. They only finished with 397, and like all of that nearly came on that last drive, their last touchdown drive, that is. So just very disheartening of a start and of a performance. And I unless you have any more thoughts on the game, I guess we can just kind of get into what's next.
Yeah, I mean, just a couple of things. It's just really sad when the game. We talked about this in a couple of losses beforehand. It's really sad when the game comes down to just a couple of plays. I mean, the Haynes King interception, again, like you said, is probably one of the biggest momentum shifters you can ever have in a game. 100-yard pick six. I mean, it literally doesn't get any crazier than that. And then the one other play that comes to mind is the 3rd and 4 Pitt on their last touchdown drive. They're on like their own 31. Georgia Tech has a chance to stop them, and I mean they just have guys wide open, have the completion, and then the next play there's that 50-yard run that Jakarian Turner breaks off. I think he had 200 yards in this game. It was just
Yeah, that's the thing. Pitt was out without their star running back, which we've seen this crap before. We just saw it a few weeks ago in Raleigh when the ACC's leading rusher is out, and no problem. Yeah, like it was just a wild up and down game. But I just going big picture now. look, I don't have all the scenarios in front of me. They're confusing as hell. Um, it is very, 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 very unlikely Georgia Tech gets in. Like, you basically, this is just strictly off the top of my head. I think you would probably need Virginia to beat Virginia Tech or lose to Virginia Tech. You probably need SMU to lose to Cal. I don't really know if you need anything in the Miami Pitt game. I assume maybe I don't know. I'll have to do some research on that as far as the any scenarios. But long story short, it's extremely unlikely they make the ACC title game. And look, we'd been talking about how much the schedule had was set up for Georgia Tech to have success. Like, you can go back to podcast in what, March, or me and you were talking about, hey, things break right a certain way this year. Like, the the schedule can be a real factor for Georgia Tech, and it just feels this is just a major missed opportunity. Um, you have a game at home. Look, Pitt deserves a lot of credit. I hope Pitt, like any Pitt fans watching this, or like, I hope I'm giving you a lot of credit. Like, they came out where they were far more prepared than Georgia Tech was. They absolutely deserved to win the game, although they absolutely tried to not win the game at times today. Um, it's just very disappointing for just given what was at stake. You're at home, sellout crowd. Um, you win that game, you're one win away from the college football playoff. And, people can say whatever they want to about how maybe Georgia Tech would have absolutely got throttled in the first round of the playoff. Maybe they would have, but just making it would have just been, considering where this program was a few years ago, would have just been a monumental thing. And it's almost certainly not going to happen now. And look, I don't know what happens next week, but now like, my feeling on it is like, you've gone from maybe having a special season to just having a nice season, a pretty good one. Like, at the end of the day, like, 9-3 is far better than anything that Georgia Tech has had in quite a while. The two best seasons in recent memory, 2016 and 2014, where they were pretty good. But just a few weeks ago, Georgia Tech was 8-0, and top 10, looked like a lock at least to make the ACC title game. Who knows if they'd have won it, but now that's probably not going to happen. And look, I do want to say that despite this result, for anybody thinking that the season doesn't mean anything and there's nothing left to play for, look, it should mean something to everybody that game next week. Like, even if you don't get in the playoff and you don't have everything fall your way to go to the ACC title game, like, you haven't beat Georgia since 2016. I think everybody remembers how last year went, and how crazy that was, and just everybody remembers the game. I'm not going to get into it. Everybody remembers the game. And that was the closest. A lot of the games haven't been close, but that one was very close. And um, look, I'm rambling a little bit here, but like, there's still some things to play for. I know a lot of talk is now just playoff or bust, mentality, and I still think it's very disappointing. Don't get me wrong. I think it's very disappointing that they're not going to have a shot to get into the college football playoff, but still some things to play for next Friday, although I don't like how I'm feeling about that game right now.
Yeah, and I know it's disappointing. I know this loss is disappointing. I know the fact that you're not likely to be in the ACC championship is beyond disappointing. But I don't think there's one game that means more to Brent Key than the game that's going to happen next week. And I think if you go through and you win that game, uh, we talked about this. I think the game against Pitt was probably the biggest game Bobby Dodd in a very, very, very long time. Huge implications. Uh, and you fall short. But that game at Mercedes Benz, that game is still going to mean a lot to this team. If you win that game, you end up, you're 10-2. If things shake right, you could get into the college football playoff. That's the best Georgia Tech season in a very, very, very long time. Uh, and if anything, what the season can be is it can be, building blocks for things forward. And, all is not lost. This is not, you're fighting for bowl eligibility at the end of the season and you end up in the Gasparilla Bowl. this is you're fighting to be in one of the top bowls in the country, and you still have a chance to beat Georgia. Although after what I saw today, my confidence in that game is not as high as it was.
Gasparilla Bowl catching strays out here. Hey, that was a fun game. But anyway, yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you said. Obviously, we're gonna have more on this. Um, I don't know that we're gonna have an instant reaction show to the playoff rankings on Tuesday. Full disclosure, I don't know that there's really a need for it. We're not slacking off a promise. It's just it's Thanksgiving week and all that kind of stuff. I don't. We're gonna have a preview for the Georgia game. Obviously, that's probably when you guys will see us next. But man, that sucks. Just having it end up the way it did. But we'll be back next week. There is, for anybody interested, there's a basketball game tomorrow. We haven't talked a lot of basketball, but they do play West Georgia tomorrow at 2. I'll have coverage over on the site for that. But disappointing night for sure. Any final words, RJ?
Hey, there's still time to right this ship. Like there's still you still got leeway at the end of the season. I don't want people thinking, "Oh, hope is lost." You can still make the ACC championship. Now, I don't know how that's going to happen, but there's still his ways. So, there's still a lot to play for.
Yeah, for sure. So I know there's the amount of people tuning in is probably not going to be a lot, but for those that do, we really do appreciate it. Like this is not fluff from me or RJ. Like we really do appreciate it. Love it if you'd subscribe if you hadn't already. Like the video, follow us wherever you get your podcasts, and we will see you guys next week. Until then, so long.